Healing isn't dramatic. It's not a grand declaration or some breakthrough moment where everything clicks. It's subtle, quiet. One day you realize you didn't think about them. Another day you remember something, and it doesn't hurt. Then you catch yourself smiling, genuinely, effortlessly, and realize you've come further than you thought. I stopped trying to define what we were or what we could have been. I stopped assigning meaning to the pain. Some things don't have a reason. Some people hurt you simply because they can, because their own void swallows everything around them. His actions said more about him than they ever did about me. That was a truth I clung to when doubt whispered louder than logic. I learned to take responsibility only for my part. I had flaws, yes. I missed things. I accepted less than I deserved. I stayed silent when I should have spoken. But I didn't lie. I didn't betray. I didn't discard someone who loved me. That distinction mattered. It still does. There was a period when I kept comparing every new interaction to the past. Every man felt like a risk. I watched their words like puzzles, looked for inconsistencies in every sentence. I hated that he left that mark on me, but I accepted it. Healing meant acknowledging the scar without letting it dictate the rest of my story. Some friends told me to move on, as if it were a switch to flip. But I didn't want to rush it. I wanted to process everything fully, to sit with the discomfort, to grow through it rather than around it. Moving on isn't forgetting. It's choosing to keep going even when the past tries to drag you back. I found strength in the most ordinary things. Morning routines, clean sheets, solo walks with music in my ears. There was something sacred in reclaiming the little moments that used to feel heavy with memory. The mug I drank coffee from no longer reminded me of him. It was just a mug. The city streets we once explored became mine again. Not haunted, just familiar. Closure didn't come with a final conversation or a perfect explanation. It came from distance, from the space where I learned to breathe without waiting for an apology, from knowing I'd never get the answers I wanted, and realizing I no longer needed them. He reached out one last time. A short message. Said he heard I was doing well and was glad. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry. I simply didn't want to open a door that took me so long to close. Some people leave quietly. Others leave damage. He was both. I remember when I finally deleted his photos. Not in a rage. Just a quiet, deliberate choice. I went through each one, paused briefly, then erased them. I didn't need digital ghosts lingering. I didn't want reminders of a man who wore love like a costume. The version of me that loved him, she existed. She was real. But she's not here anymore. She gave more than she should have, held on too tightly, forgave too easily. I don't hate her. I just outgrew her. That version of me believed that loyalty meant staying, even when staying meant shrinking. Now I know better. Love, the kind that lasts, isn't supposed to hurt like that. It's not supposed to leave you questioning your worth, begging for honesty, or competing with a lie. It should feel safe, soft, solid. And if it doesn't, it's not love. It's attachment, habit, fear dressed up as commitment. I stopped chasing the why and started asking what now. What do I want? What does peace look like? What kind of life am I building that doesn't depend on someone else showing up right? I started setting intentions. Simple ones. Be honest. Be present. Don't settle. In time, I reconnected with myself. Not the version that tried to be perfect. The real one. The messy, emotional, brave one. I stopped pretending to be fine and started being truthful. With myself, with others. If I was hurt, I said it. If I was tired, I rested. If something didn't feel right, I walked away. No performance. No compromise. That shift changed everything. Friendships deepened. My work improved. I stopped apologizing for taking up space. For having standards. For not tolerating emotional crumbs. Eventually, I did meet someone new. But this story isn't about that. He wasn't a savior. He didn't fix me. I had to be whole before he arrived. And when he did, it wasn't fireworks, it was ease. I didn't question his words because they aligned with his actions. I didn't feel small next to him. I didn't feel like I had to earn his love. He gave it freely, consistently, quietly. And I received it without fear. Still, I kept boundaries. Not walls, just clarity. I protected my peace fiercely. I didn't romanticize red flags. I didn't justify inconsistency. I asked hard questions and paid attention to the answers. I stayed grounded in reality, not potential. The woman I became through all this, the one writing these words, isn't bitter. She's aware. She's cautious, yes, but also open. She doesn't regret the past because it taught her what not to accept. It gave her a map for what real connection looks like. It broke her, yes, but it also built her. There's something powerful about surviving something that was meant to destroy you. Not just surviving it, but thriving after. Not in spite of it, but because of how deeply it forced you to know yourself. Now, when people ask if I've forgiven him, I say yes. But not for him. For me. Forgiveness isn't about excusing. It's about releasing. I let go of the bitterness, the need for revenge, the fantasy of him coming back changed. I don't want the apology anymore. I just want peace. And I have it. There's a freedom in no longer needing to be understood by the one who hurt you. A quiet victory in not needing closure from someone incapable of giving it. Some people will never understand the damage they caused because they never had to sit in the ruins. But I did. I sat there, cleared the debris, and rebuilt from scratch. Stronger. Smarter. Softer in the right places. Tougher in the rest. That's the real story. Not just the betrayal. Not just the heartbreak. But the becoming. The reclamation. The quiet, steady return to myself. So no, I don't miss him. I don't hate him. I feel nothing. And that, after everything, is the most powerful feeling of all. The apartment was silent when I came back to get my things. He wasn't there. Half the furniture was gone. It felt gutted, like us. I packed only what mattered, my clothes, books, personal files. I left behind the throw blankets we bought on vacation, the mugs we joked about, the couch where we used to fall asleep watching old movies. Everything had memories, and none of them felt like mine anymore. The first few nights alone were brutal. I kept expecting a message, some last-minute plea, but nothing came. That silence that once hurt became the proof I needed. He was gone emotionally long before I walked out physically. I didn't cry as much as I thought I would. The tears came in waves, but mostly I felt flat. Hollow. Like my body was operating on autopilot, and my mind was playing catch-up. Mutual friends reached out. Some were genuinely shocked, asking what happened. Others were quiet, avoiding me like heartbreak was contagious. A few admitted they'd seen something off but didn't want to get involved. It was hard not to take that personally. I felt stupid, like the last one to know the punchline of a cruel joke. But what hurt more were the people who stayed close to him, who justified his actions with words like mistake or human weakness. I didn't want sides, but silence always chooses one. He sent a long email 2 weeks later. Said he was sorry for how everything ended, that he didn't handle it right, that he still cared about me and hoped someday we could talk. It wasn't enough. It didn't change what he did. He wrote about how lost he felt, how things with her weren't as serious as I thought. But I didn't care. His confusion wasn't my responsibility anymore. The worst part was the questions that lingered. Did he bring her to our favorite place? Did he use the words he once used on me? Was she younger, prettier, more exciting? I hated how much space she took in my mind. A stranger I never met, but one who carved her presence into my life without permission. I thought about messaging her, telling her what he'd done, warning her, but I didn't. Not because I was protecting him, but because I didn't want another piece of this disaster consuming more of my energy. Let her find out who he really is the way I did. Quietly. Painfully. Therapy helped, eventually. I started talking to someone just to organize my thoughts. At first, I felt dumb, explaining my own story like I was watching it happen to someone else. But it helped. Naming things helped. Saying out loud, he cheated. He lied. I stayed too long. Helped remove the shame. I started writing again. Journaling. Short bursts at first. Just the raw stuff. I wasn't trying to be profound. I just wanted it out of me. I read my own words weeks later and didn't recognize the person in them. That version of me was bruised, confused, desperate, but also surviving. I remember one night sitting in my car, just parked in a grocery lot, crying without sound. Not because of a new memory, but because of the weight I'd been carrying and didn't even notice. I had been surviving a one-sided relationship for months, maybe longer, and never let myself acknowledge how exhausting that was. When love becomes labor, it's already dead. He tried to reconnect once. A message, casual. Hope you're doing okay. I stared at it for a while before deleting it. I didn't need to know what he hoped anymore. I didn't need to know if he missed me. Missing me wouldn't undo what he did. Friends slowly stopped asking about him. Conversations returned to normal. Work gossip, memes, weekend plans, but there was a version of me that never really rejoined them. A quieter version. Less trusting. More observant. I couldn't pretend I was the same, and I didn't want to. I kept bumping into reminders. Our favorite song would play. A street we used to walk down. A food he loved. Each time it hit differently. Some days it stung. Some days I felt nothing. Some days I laughed bitterly at how ordinary it all seemed now. The sharpness dulled over time, but the outline stayed. Grief's fingerprint. One evening I saw a couple in the park. Laughing. Holding hands. It gutted me. Not because I missed him, but because I missed that. The ease. The trust. The safety of not questioning someone's intentions. I wasn't jealous of them. I was jealous of who I used to be before all of this. I started setting boundaries in ways I never used to. Saying no without guilt. Leaving situations that felt wrong without explaining myself. It wasn't a sudden transformation. Just small shifts. I stopped answering late-night texts. Stopped trying to fix things I didn't break. My therapist called it taking up space. I called it reclaiming myself. Eventually, I moved into a new apartment. Smaller, quieter. My own. Every item inside was chosen by me for me. No shared history, no haunted memories. I painted the walls a color he would have hated. Adopted a cat. Learned to enjoy my own silence. The healing didn't look like movies. It was slow, uneven, and often invisible. But it was real. People asked if I was dating again. I wasn't. Not because I was bitter, but because I needed to trust myself again before I could trust someone else. I needed to believe in my own worth outside of someone's validation. Love wasn't the destination. Peace was. There were nights I still wondered what he was doing. If she was still in the picture. If he ever regretted what he threw away. But those thoughts passed quicker now. Less weight. Less ache. More observation than emotion. One night, I wrote down everything I wish I'd said to him. Not to send, just to purge. I told him he broke something in me, but he didn't destroy me. I told him that his choices weren't a reflection of my value. That I would have fought for us, but I'm glad I didn't. Because love that requires self-erasure isn't love, it's dependency. I wrote that forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting. I might never forget. But I was learning to forgive, not for him, but for myself. So I could move forward without bitterness as my companion. I kept that letter in a drawer and never read it again. Months passed. He became a name I no longer said out loud. Her face remained unknown. I didn't need closure, because I built my own. Piece by piece. Day by day. I stopped telling the story with a shaking voice. I stopped crying when I heard our song. I stopped seeing myself as a victim and started seeing myself as someone who survived something that should have broken her, but didn't. Not all endings need a second act. Some just need space to breathe and a door to close quietly behind you. It happened on a Thursday. He said he was going out for a team dinner. I nodded, acted normal, but something in my chest didn't sit right. After he left, I opened a laptop we shared. He'd logged out of everything, email, social, even Netflix. All his history cleared. I opened the trash folder out of habit. One deleted file. A screenshot. My hands were shaking when I clicked it. It was a message thread. Her name wasn't visible, but her words were, "Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about your hands." I stared at it for a full minute, rereading the sentence like it would change if I looked long enough. It didn't. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just closed the laptop and sat there, staring at the wall. I wanted to throw up. Wanted to punch something. But mostly, I just felt this terrifying calm. Like my body shut down before the storm. The next day, I called into work and stayed home. He didn't notice. He came back that night, kissed my cheek like nothing was wrong. I wanted to ask. I wanted to scream the question. But I didn't. I waited. I needed more. I needed to be absolutely sure. So, I did something I never thought I'd do. I installed a tracking app on his tablet. It was linked to his phone. I hated myself for it, but I was already broken. Trust was already gone. That weekend, he told me he was going to help a coworker move. I nodded, said I'd catch up on laundry. As soon as he left, I checked the app. He wasn't near any moving trucks. He was at a hotel. I sat there, watching that blinking dot on the screen, imagining what was happening behind those closed doors. My heart was beating so fast, I thought I'd pass out. I screenshotted everything. The location. The timestamps. I wrote it all down. Then I waited. When he came home that night, he was quiet, almost gentle. Asked if I wanted dinner. I said I wasn't hungry. He didn't press. Just took a shower and scrolled on his phone all night. I didn't sleep. I lay next to him listening to his breathing, wondering how someone could be so close physically and still feel like a stranger. The next morning, I asked him outright, "Are you seeing someone else?" He didn't even flinch, just blinked and said, "What are you talking about?" I asked again. Same calm, blank expression. "Of course not. Why would you think that?" I told him I knew, that I'd seen messages, seen his location. He didn't get angry. He didn't even look surprised. He just sighed. "Okay," he said. "I guess you know now." That was it. No apology. No explanation. No shame. Just admission like it was overdue paperwork. My chest tightened so hard I thought I'd stop breathing. I asked who she was. He said she was someone from work. That it started a few months ago. That it wasn't serious. I asked him if he loved her. He said no. I asked if he loved me. He didn't answer. The silence was louder than any scream. I asked why. Why throw away everything? Why lie to me? Why stay? He shrugged. Actually shrugged. "I don't know. I didn't plan to. It just happened." I felt my body go cold. I asked how many times. He said it didn't matter. I asked if it happened in our bed. He said no. But he hesitated when he said it, and I knew it was a lie. He tried to flip it on me. Said I'd been distant. Said I stopped being fun. That I didn't seem happy anymore. I laughed. It was bitter and sharp. "You made me distant. You stopped showing up. I tried. You shut me out." He rolled his eyes. Said we could talk later when I calmed down. Then he left. Just walked out like the conversation was done. I sat on the kitchen floor for hours. Everything felt surreal. Like I was watching it happen to someone else. I picked up my phone more than once to call someone, my sister, my best friend, but I couldn't speak. I didn't want to hear myself say it out loud. Saying it would make it too real. That night, I packed a bag and drove to my sister's place. I didn't tell him, just left a note. "I know everything. I need space." He didn't text, didn't call, nothing. That silence hurt more than anything. I kept checking my phone like maybe he was waiting for the right words. But there were no words, just distance. The next day, he messaged, "Let me know when you want to talk." That was it. No apology. No regret. Just logistics. I felt like a business partner being informed of a schedule change. I didn't reply. I spent the next few days at my sister's, trying to function. Eating was hard. Sleeping was worse. Everything reminded me of him. Every sound. Every quiet moment. I kept replaying our conversations, looking for signs, for turning points. But it didn't matter. The outcome was the same. Eventually, I agreed to talk. I met him at a cafe, public enough to keep things civil. He looked the same. Calm. Unbothered. I looked like hell. Hollowed eyes. Nervous hands. He said he was sorry. Said he never meant to hurt me, that it got out of hand, and he didn't know how to stop. I asked if he loved her. Again, no answer. Asked if he was still seeing her. He said yes, that he didn't want to lie anymore. That was the final break. The last thread snapped. I stood up and said I didn't want anything from him. Not closure, not an apology, not understanding. I just wanted distance. He nodded like he expected that. I filed for separation that week. We weren't married, but we shared a lease, shared furniture, shared memories that now felt contaminated. He didn't fight it, didn't beg or plead, just signed what he had to and left. The worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was the apathy, the fact that I could be shattered and he could still sleep at night. I found myself questioning everything. Was it ever real? Was he always this detached? Did I miss something that obvious? The doubt crept in like poison. I replayed the early days, the middle years, the quiet unraveling. I realized how many times I'd made excuses for him. How many red flags I painted white just to keep the peace. I told myself I was strong. But the truth is, I stayed too long. I waited for someone who had already walked away. I gave loyalty to someone who gave me lies. And when I finally walked, I did it alone. I didn't tell many people. Just my closest friends. Most were shocked. A few weren't. One friend told me she always felt something was off, but didn't want to interfere. That stung more than I expected. The thought that people saw cracks I tried so hard to hide. In the weeks that followed, he messaged a few times. Said he hoped I was okay. That he was thinking of me. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't want to, but because I knew any answer would pull me back into his gravity. I needed to get out. To stay out. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want closure. I just wanted peace. And I wasn't going to find it with him still in my life. I never thought I'd be the person typing something like this out, but here I am. I met him during my 3rd year of college. He wasn't flashy or overly charming, just warm, consistent, and he made me feel seen in a way I didn't realize I needed. We started out as friends, bonding over mutual classes and late-night study sessions, and it slowly evolved into something more. It felt natural, unforced. By the time we graduated, we were living together in a small apartment downtown, trying to figure out adult life together. For years, it worked. We split the bills, did Sunday grocery runs, and every Friday night was pizza and movie night. Nothing dramatic, just steady comfort. He was the kind of man who would bring home my favorite coffee when I had a bad day, who remembered little things like how I liked my toast. I believed in us. I genuinely did. We weren't perfect, but I thought we had something real. The first shift was so subtle, I barely noticed. He got a promotion and started coming home later than usual. I was happy for him. He deserved the recognition, but something changed. He'd started showering as soon as he got home, and when I kissed him hello, he'd turn his head just slightly. Small things. He stopped asking about my day. Our movie nights became just background noise while he scrolled on his phone. At first, I blamed myself. Maybe I was boring. Maybe I hadn't been supportive enough. I started trying harder, cooking more, dressing up even when we weren't going anywhere, planning spontaneous date nights. He always had an excuse. I'm tired. Not tonight. Maybe this weekend. I let it slide because I didn't want to be the nagging partner. I told myself he was just stressed, that it was a phase. But I felt it, that growing distance between us. We'd lie in bed together, but it felt like we were 1,000 miles apart. Conversations became transactional. Can you grab milk? Did you pay the electric bill? No depth, no warmth. Still, I told myself we were okay. That every couple went through dull phases. That this was just one of them. One night, I tried to initiate intimacy. He flinched. Actually flinched. And then gave me this tired excuse about being exhausted from work. I remember lying awake that night, staring at the ceiling, wondering when exactly I started feeling like a roommate instead of a partner. I didn't have an answer. I started noticing other things. He was always on his phone, but when I walked into the room, he'd flip it over. He never used to do that. I tried to ignore it, but it sat in the back of my mind like a splinter. When I finally brought it up, he got defensive. Why don't you trust me? You're acting paranoid. So, I dropped it. Or, at least, I pretended to. Our anniversary came. 5 years together. I planned a small getaway. Nothing extravagant, just a cozy cabin 2 hours out. He said he couldn't take time off, that it wasn't a good time. I accepted it, smiled, said we could do something smaller. Ordered in his favorite food. Got him a watch he once pointed out months before. He forgot to get me anything. Said it slipped his mind. Then spent the rest of the night on a work call. I sat alone at the table, staring at his untouched plate. I don't know why that moment hit me so hard. Maybe it was the contrast between what I was willing to give and what I was getting back. Or maybe it was realizing that I didn't feel like a priority anymore. Just convenient. I started keeping things to myself. I stopped sharing when I had a bad day. Stopped waiting for him to notice when I was quiet. I started feeling lonelier in that apartment with him than I ever did living alone. He didn't even notice when I started sleeping on the couch some nights. No questions, no concern. Just silence. One weekend, I visited my sister. Just 2 days away. When I got back, the house felt off. Not messy, not broken into. Just wrong. A glass I hadn't used in the sink. A faint perfume that wasn't mine lingering in the bedroom. I tried to ignore it. Told myself I was being crazy. That he probably had a friend over. But the next morning, when I looked at the laundry basket, I saw a blouse I didn't recognize. It wasn't mine. I didn't confront him. Not yet. I needed more than feelings. I wanted truth. Proof. So I waited. Watched. Paid attention. And still, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I hated myself for it, but part of me still wanted to believe in the man I fell in love with. He started going to the gym. That in itself wasn't strange. But the sudden obsession with his appearance, the new cologne, the fresh haircut, he never used to care about that. I complimented him, trying to keep things light. He shrugged it off. Said he just wanted to feel better about himself. He started locking his phone. Changed his password. One night, I woke up and saw the screen light up. A message preview. Can't wait to see you again. No name. Just that. I felt cold. Not angry, not shocked, just empty. Like my stomach dropped out of me. I didn't wake him. I just lay there trying to process it all. Still, I told myself there had to be an explanation. A cousin. A joke. A mistake. Because accepting the truth meant accepting that the person I built a life with had been slowly tearing it apart behind my back. I spent days in a fog. At work, I couldn't focus. At home, I watched him laugh at his phone, smiling at texts that weren't for me. I started to hate that smile. Started to hate how comfortable he looked. Like there wasn't a knife in my chest. I tried once more. Asked him if everything was okay. If we were okay. He looked at me, expression flat, and said, "You're overthinking again." Just like that. No warmth. No effort. No fight. That's when I knew. Because when someone loves you, they don't make you feel insane for seeking reassurance. They don't shut you out when you're scared. They don't make you question your worth for needing connection. I went into the bathroom and cried in silence. Not because I'd lost him, but because I realized I'd been losing myself, piece by piece, trying to hold on to something he'd already let go of.